This summer, protests by locals in Barcelona made it clear that the popular European city has a big problem: tourists. And hi there, I'm one of them. I've been to Barcelona several times before and after Mediterranean cruises, and you know I love this city. I've shown you my hot spots, given you hotel recommendations, showed you step by step how to get to the cruise port and back, and tried to help make it really easy to plan your trip to the city too. And the problem is, now everybody wants to go to Barcelona. Wait, I don't mean just because of my video. You know what I mean. It is Sunday, October 6th, 2024, and on this week's edition of Sunday Sofa Time, we're talking about how travel content creators are helping ruin tourism. I'm Morgan from the very unofficial travel guides. I've been making travel videos now for over 15 years of popular and not so popular tourist destinations to give you a very honest, unofficial look at what it's like to be there. And I also wrote a little book of travel stories called Getting Stitches on a Cruise Ship. It's available on Amazon now. Check it out if you like to read and want to give me a little extra support. Speaking of extra support, thanks again to my newest Patreon member, Buddy MXC, and my newest channel member who is still Manners Please Canine Training. Okay, it may be weird that somebody who does what I do and enjoys traveling as much as I enjoy traveling is about to talk about why somebody just like me is part of the problem. I see it happening, I kind of know what's going on, and I'm not sure I have a solution, but let's talk about it. I'm currently finishing up writing my second book, which is more travel stories about a earlier time in my life. And a lot of times while going through these memories and writing things down, I find myself asking the question, how did we even get there? How did we know that was there? Because 30 years ago, when a lot of these memories happened, and I was, 2 years old, there was no internet. It wasn't as easy as it is now to find information about destinations around the country or around the world. There were guidebooks you could purchase, but a lot of those were years old, or you could talk to travel agents or people that you know who had been there. Ooh my, how that has changed. I feel like nowadays there is literally no travel destination that you can't find hundreds of videos about on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram. And I mean, it's not just YouTube. The internet altogether has made it extremely easy to find current, up-to-date information about anything, anywhere, everywhere around the world. There basically are no secrets and no secret places anymore, and that's good and bad. I'm also reminded of this every time I go to Disney World. There are so many great Disney-centered content creators right now, and a lot of them are really enjoyable and entertaining to watch. But if you look at the Disney parks also as a tourist destination, yes, they are extremely overcrowded and have gotten so expensive. And all these little secret dining hacks and way you could share your tips with just your friends or the people in your neighborhood who are maybe going there for the first time, that's done now. When a new cupcake is introduced to the bakery in Magic Kingdom, literally that same day, there are going to be hundreds of videos on the internet about this new cupcake. There are no secrets and surprises anymore, which I find unfortunate. And when we're talking about destinations around the world, what happens is then what used to be like a tranquil location now feels like a theme park. Some content creator showcases what used to be a hidden beach along the coastline, and all of a sudden it's packed with tourists, tripods, drones, and people trying to get the perfect Instagram shot. Very quickly, the peaceful sort of secret insider vibes disappear. And when we're looking at towns on the Greek islands or on the Spanish coast or in Mexico, Dominican Republic, another thing that happens is the authenticity kind of gets lost. One thing that's true around the world is everybody wants to make money, and when a restaurant or a market or a bar starts to gain popularity, of course it is then a smart business decision to raise the prices. But when places become too popular, local traditions often get commercialized to cater to tourists. If there's a dish on the menu that's not getting sold anymore, even though it might be very traditional, that dish is probably going to disappear and be replaced with something that the restaurant knows the tourists like. And that in turn makes it harder and harder to find some place that's going to give you authentic food from the area. Now let's talk about expectations. Another thing that content creators are great at doing is showing the best side of something. It sometimes takes a long time to get that great shot of the beach, to get the sunset, to set up the food on the table to make it look as appealing as possible. And I feel like that can kind of lead to unrealistically high expectations for everybody who watches the videos and then goes there themselves. When you're just casually walking into a restaurant and ordering a table full of tapas, it's almost never gonna look or taste as great as you think it's gonna look after viewing 500 Instagram posts about it. And if we're talking about like beaches, usually the videos that you watch and the posts that you see are not gonna show the overfilled trash cans or the overpriced beer at the kiosk on the corner. They're just gonna show the good parts. And I wonder if this leads to more people actually being disappointed on their travels. And let me just remind you again, along the way here in this video, I know I'm kind of part of this problem or part of this system. I make videos showing where I was, what I did, and you know me, I will show those trash cans. That's one thing that makes the Very Unofficial Travel Guides here a little different than other travel channels. And if you've liked this video so far, please make sure you press that thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already. But these like super popular destination-based YouTube videos can also lead to people doing like a cookie cutter travel experience, going to this same restaurant, going to the same beach, going to the same place to watch the sunset. And then your trip becomes like a checklist of destinations and shots you have to get, which then also may lead to overcrowding in certain places. And it also takes like the chance away that you might just be walking down some random street and find something that you didn't know about that ends up to be really fantastic. Yes, planning a trip to a destination, especially if it's in a different country and especially if it's someplace where you don't speak the language, it can be stressful. And I know how great it is to just sit down and watch like a half-hour video on the internet and think, okay, great. Now I know what I want to do. But when you're traveling, I encourage you to have some time where you don't have a plan and you don't know what you want to do, and you just kind of go off and discover. Now let's talk about problems for the locals. Of course, in cities like Barcelona, for this example, it's not just tourists that are there, and it's not just people working in the tourism industry that are there. There's also people who just live there and are going to school there and have totally other jobs that have nothing to do with tourism. And when a city like Barcelona becomes such a hot spot, it affects the lives and the day-to-day rhythm of everybody in the city. The subways and buses become overcrowded, making it more difficult for people to get to work. And to talk again about like beautiful romantic places to watch the sunset, it's not only tourists who like to go to those places, local people like to watch the sunset too. And in an article that I read about this problem in Barcelona, there were locals saying that during the pandemic, they realized how beautiful their city was when there were no tourists around, because then those sunset places, those little cafes on the corner, they weren't as full and crowded, and it felt more just like normal real life. And now that tourism is booming again and reaching record highs in places like Barcelona, they're overcrowded with tourists, and the tourists are loud, and because there's so many people there, it's dirty and things are breaking and there's more graffiti. And I totally get it. This makes total sense to me. Where there's a lot of people, there's gonna be a lot of noise, there's gonna be a lot of trash, there's even gonna be more crime. And another thing that's become a huge problem all over the world is how tourism affects the housing market. This is nothing new, and this is something we could do a whole different video on, and it's also something that I've been part of the problem because I have stayed in vacation rental homes. Big cities that are popular for tourists have the problem that finding an apartment for the people who live there has become really difficult, because anytime a beautiful apartment in a great location becomes available, somebody buys it and turns it into an Airbnb. And I mean, this is a great investment opportunity. Like I said, everybody wants to make money. this is a great way to make money. But the downside is how it affects the locals. And let me tell you something, the apartment next to us right now is available. And if somebody were to turn that into an Airbnb and every week new people were moving in and out of here and partying at night on the balcony,
I would be pissed off too.
I get it. And because of this now, cities have started implementing higher and higher hotel taxes and short-term rental fees, and also started banning short-term rentals altogether. So yeah, it's kind of a too much of a good thing ruins it for everybody's situation, unfortunately. I think the original concept of what Airbnb was supposed to be used for was a really great idea, and that is to have people stay in your actual home when you're not there, or if you have an extra room that you want to rent out every now and then. Not to buy an entire apartment that you never live in and just rent it out like a hotel. That's not what it was supposed to be, but that's kind of what it is now. Of course, there are a lot of advantages to a destination experiencing a boom in tourism. Maybe we could go into that in a whole different video. That's not what this video is about, but I just wanted to mention that before we get to the solution to this problem. And as far as I'm concerned, the solution is, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. People have always loved to travel, and there have always been travel guides available. Like I mentioned, they used to be in paper form. They used to be books, and some of these books sold millions of copies, but the difference is they were a guide to a destination at the time the book was published and quickly went out of date. Back then, we looked for information about destinations by using these guides, and I know back then we would have loved to have more current and more visual and more detailed information, and fast forward to now and we have it. That's not bad, but I agree that the situation like it is in many cities has become bad. But so do we start limiting the number of external people who can visit a certain city during a time period? There are cities that have started implementing sort of anti-tourism measures, like removing certain popular bus lines in Google Maps so the tourists don't find them. And like I said, increasing hotel fees and tourism taxes on hotel rooms. Of course, if locals continue to make it uncomfortable for tourists to visit a place, that will lead ultimately probably to less tourism, but that will also have a negative effect because a lot of people's jobs rely on these tourists. So like I said, I don't know what the solution is. I'm interested to hear if you can think of any ways to solve this problem. Maybe the world is just altogether overpopulated. So hey everybody, stop having babies. That's the solution. I'm kidding. Have lots of babies. I've heard it's really fun to make them. If you have made it to the end of the video, if you've watched this far, then please include something about a baby in your comments, and that's how I'll know secretly between us you watched till the end. Thanks for spending this part of your Sunday or whatever day it is you watch this video with me. I'm Morgan from the Very Unofficial Travel Guides, and I hope to see you back here soon. Bye-bye.